What does freedom mean to you? Does it mean the freedom to choose? The freedom to have a family and raise your kids according to your own values? What about living a wild, adventurous life, experimenting with music, relationships, or art? What does freedom really mean? What if freedom meant something that only a few Americans still understood? What if it meant that your choices and your values were set by you, rather than by some politician in a far-off capital? Some people think we're only free to choose to live exactly how they live, by their moral code, or their narrow worldviews. But if liberty means anything, it means that you, and you alone, have the power to exercise your rights to which the laws of nature and nature's God granted you. It's time to put these principles back into action. It's time to restore the American dream, activate in our communities, and take our country back. It's time to wake up, America. Good morning. Happy Monday. I'm Austin Petersen. It's time to rise in freedom. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. How was your weekend? Mine was awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for all of the nice birthday wishes that I got over the weekend from all of our friends and family around the country. It was nice to see everybody sending some DMs, dropping some hot DMs, sliding into my DMs all weekend, and just, saying happy birthday. I appreciate that. 42 years old now. I'm old, damn it. But I'm still going to dress like a kid because you know what? I still feel young inside. I hope you enjoy the Wake Up America show today. We've got some great content and some great guests. You don't want to miss a single minute of the Wake Up America show. I've got for you today at the top of the program, we're still covering that Ohio train disaster. Ohio State Senator came out and said, whatever you do, don't drink the water. Don't drink the water out there. Senator J.D. Vance, newly elected Republican U.S. Senator J.D. Vance, went out into a stream, stirred up the bottom of the water, and all this sticky goop came out. I've got the video for you. We'll talk a little bit about that and still what's being done on behalf of the citizens there. After that, this morning, Bernie Sanders lashes out at Nikki Haley for her ageism. Yeah, we're still talking about who's past their prime. She's past her prime. He's past her prime. No, never know that little song. What's that song? Lil Abner. I'm past my prime. God, I'm dating myself. I promise you, most people have never heard of Lil Abner. If they have heard of Lil Abner, they don't know the song Past My Prime. Good morning to all of our friends. Andy Opperman, Mrs. Smith Original, John Knox, Terry Miller, Chris Morrill. Nice to see you all here today. Make sure that if you're watching us over on YouTube that you give us a like, so that we can get out in more people's feeds today, so we can spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. Have a little bit of fun while doing so. Bernie Sanders versus Nikki Haley. We'll talk about that at 7:18. And then I've actually got a really cool article about how to reverse gray hair. We all know that stress is very likely to be one of the main causes of gray hair, but scientists now believe they may have found a way to reverse it. Yeah, pretty cool. And if you're worth it, let me jerk it. And there's something and reverse it. At 7:35 today, Maria Buenano joins us today to talk about kids playing soccer, and they're told if they don't wear the rainbow jersey, they're not going to be allowed to play in a soccer match. Can you imagine telling kids? That's so weird as hell. You're telling kids that if they don't support some political cause, that they're not going to be able to play in their favorite sport. I mean, that's just some weird, you know what. Good morning, Matt Unruh and Hikaru K. Nice to see you here today. Thanks so much for joining us on the program. At 7:51 today, looks like Elon Musk was the innovator in this. Yes, Mark Zuckerberg, the founder and CEO of Meta, has announced, I know I hate calling it Meta, it's Facebook, right? Has announced that they're going to launch a subscription service for blue check marks. Oh, yeah. Remember when everybody was pooping all over Elon Musk for coming out with a subscription service for Twitter Blue, which, by the way, I've been a member of for a month, and they still haven't given me my new blue check mark. They still give me that insulting Elon Musk message that says, well, I have to look at it real quick. What does it say? The insulting Elon Musk. Oh, this is a legacy verified account. This is what my Twitter says. It may or may not be notable. Yeah. May or may not be notable. Okay. Yes. Morning all. Happy belated birthday, AP. Thank you, Cecilia. Cecilia, you're breaking my heart. Yeah, so Twitter is not necessarily working as well as they had said it was. There's also a bunch of other stuff they said Twitter Blue would do, which is just not doing, and we're paying for it. It should be working, but anyways, Facebook looks to follow the crowd and to in Elon Musk's footprints and say they're going to launch a verified subscription service so that you can be just like everybody else on Facebook. Facebook isn't really all that useful to me anymore, just because the only platform that's worse in suppressing me than Facebook nowadays is TikTok. It's a nightmare. Um, we'll talk about that later on the program. At 8 o'clock today, John Miltimore joins us. More corporations are bidding farewell to their anti-bias training.
No, God! No,
What do you mean they're
God,
pro-bias
please,
trainers?
no!
Oh, I know, you're
No!
so disappointed, right?
No!
Diversity,
No!
equity, and inclusion teams are some of the first teams now being axed thanks to the dwindling economy. People start to tighten their belts and they realize that, this stuff was frivolous. It kind of reminds me a little bit about that picture that we saw when Elon Musk took over Twitter and they showed all of these, smiling, pretty white girls who were all at Twitter enjoying their mocha frappuccinos and talking about how lovely a day in life at Silicon Valley and working at Twitter was. And it was so nice and so lovely. And then after Elon Musk took over and he starts slashing them and just destroying everybody and firing people left and right. And the only people who were left were the sweaty basement dwelling looking nerds there who were willing to put in like 16, 18 hours a day. Anyways, we'll talk about that with John Miltimore and the diversity, equity, and inclusion being, not quite so important as they thought it was. At 8:23 this morning, I love this stuff. Confederate gold. This is interesting. A metal detectorist is suing the FBI claiming he alerted them to 7 tons of Civil War era gold, and they took it away in a secret overnight dig. So the FBI literally showed up in the middle of the night once they heard there was some Confederate gold, and they just took it off right. Buddy Mansour says he's been off Facebook over a year, had TikTok for maybe a month, and could feel how dangerous it was. Apparently, I'm the most dangerous thing on TikTok because honestly, I get banned like 7-day bans every time I come back from my 7-day ban. I upload one of my new videos, my YouTube shorts that I've been doing over on YouTube, which have got me over 6 million views in the last 28 days. It's been pretty exciting. Not too hot for YouTube, but too hot for TikTok because pretty much every video that you've seen me do over on YouTube, if you've seen any of my shorts, are they get me a 7-day ban on TikTok. I don't even have to say anything on TikTok to get a 7-day ban. If I do reaction videos to other people's content, they're allowed to have it. But if I do a reaction video, even when I don't say anything, literally, even in the comment that I post that I say, wow, this is incredible, and I react to it by doing just like silly facial expressions like whatever. If I do that, those videos get taken down for hate speech or whatever. They'll leave the original video up. Instagram has done this to me as well, where I reposted this Yale professor saying that all Japanese people senior citizens need to kill themselves. And I just reposted an article from the New York Times, and I didn't say anything, didn't comment on it, but I got a strike for reposting that article. Original person, no problem. They can post it. Austin Petersen, you're not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to say that, Austin. You can't say that. You can't repeat that. Yeah, the Chinese Communist Party does not like me, but thankfully you guys do, because good news is that the Wake Up America show, as of now, is now in the green. Oh yeah, baby, I'm excited. We've got a new sponsor. They're starting here on the 27th, so a week from now. I'm going through all of their products and like testing everything, making sure that everything's good and that I'll be able to sell it effectively. But we've got a new sponsor on the show, as well as Lear Capital, as well as you guys who are doing the monthly thing, which means that even with my new employee, we are now slightly in the green, which means that we're growing, baby. We're growing, we're rocking. Yeah, we're rocking and rolling. That means that there's a future for the Wake Up America show. That means that one day we might get out of this dusty old bar where there's puke on the floor and, all kinds of nasty stuff that I don't want to describe for you. And we might get into a real studio one day and I'll be a real boy. Isn't that nice? Yes, that is
What a
nice.
super son of a bitch.
Don't talk down to me, Joe. All right. So if you want to text the show today, you can. 573-319-1586 is the text line. I'll say it for the Slobies in the group. 573-319-1586. 1586. One of my friends sent me a text yesterday saying, "Good morning, Austin. Happy birthday, young man. I'm just over 14 months your senior. Now you have the answer to the question of life, the universe, and everything. 42. Wishing you a joyous and productive 43rd year on this Earth, Quest." Good morning, Quest. Thank you for that. I saw you just joined the stream as well this morning. All right, and then of course the title segment that I have today for you at 8:30: Are straight white male important? Many people apparently don't know. A young lady went out onto the streets in Great Britain and asked people the questions of, are straight white women important? They of course were told that they are goddesses and of course floating above us, completely blameless for anything. Um, and um, and then when they turned that question around and asked people on the streets, what are straight white males good for? Well, I can imagine, knowing what you know, that you probably know what kind of responses you got, but we're going to talk about it anyway, and I'll play the clip at 8:35 this morning. You don't want to miss it. Don Lemon apologizing for comments that he made about women, and they're not being taken very well. Don Lemon had a comment that he made when he was talking about Nikki Haley and politicians being past their prime. We're going to talk about Bernie Sanders lashing out about that as well. But Don Lemon's response did not go over well at CNN, as you can imagine, when he said, well, Nikki Haley is not in her prime. And if you want to find out what a woman is her prime, you should Google it, which was quite hilarious. Yes, it is. Good morning, Joni Rankin. Good morning. Good morning. Nice to see you all here today. Elizabeth Press, welcome to the Wake Up America show. All right, let's hit the big news today. This Ohio train derailment. Finally, Pete Buttigieg steps in and is vowing to hold Norfolk Southern accountable amid all the criticism that he's been getting for not showing up a little bit earlier. U.S. Senator J.D. Vance actually showed up to the site and was digging around in the creek. Take a listen to this.
Hey guys, so I'm here at Leslie Run, and there's dead worms and dead fish all throughout this water. So, something I just discovered is that if you scrape the creek bed, it's like chemical is coming out of the ground. Can you come here and let me just show this to people. I don't know if you're going to see this on camera, but watch this. Just see that chemical pop out of the creek. This is disgusting. And the fact that we have not cleaned up the train crash, the fact that these chemicals are still seeping in the ground is an insult to the people who live in East Palestine. Do not forget these people. We've got to keep applying pressure. That's how we're going to fix this problem. Thank you.
That is Missouri, not Missouri State Senator. God, I say Missouri State Senator so often. That's U.S. Senator from Ohio, J.D. Vance, visiting a local creek there in East Palestine, shaking it up and looking at these creekways, still very polluted out there. He's calling on Norfolk Southern to finish the cleanup job. And certainly it's the kind of thing that's got us still talking here after a week. It's amazing. The EPA is out saying that people should go ahead and drink the water. Do you trust the EPA? Not so sure about how I feel about that one. I don't know if I trust the EPA, but there's an Ohio State Senator, Michael Ruley, who did an interview with Breitbart. He says that anybody living within 10 miles of East Palestine should not drink or bathe in the water. He says it's not safe. This is a man who lives in the community and is of the community, not the EPA that's, hundreds of miles away in Washington, D.C. This is a guy who lives there. He says, anyone within 10 miles, I am begging you not to drink the water. I am begging you not to bathe in the water. He says it is not safe. Ohio State Senator Ruley went on and said, now that we've had this disaster, and fortunately for us, no one got killed on the initial explosion, but now we've got to worry about cancer for the next 5, 10, 15, or 20 years. What Ruley is suggesting is that everyone goes as far away as you can and get a hotel room. He says that we've got people that are fighting with Norfolk Southern. Norfolk says they're going to pay for it, and we've got to hold their feet to the fire. Now, the state senator went on to say that nobody apparently showed up within the first few days of the train derailment. He says, in fairness to the governor, they sent some nice crews down there that were working on it, but the feds were nowhere to be found. He says we're day 14, and the U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown just showed up a couple of days ago, and then the FEMA came the day before, and the FEMA officials have been telling everyone to drink the water. He says, give me a break. These are my people. These are the people I go to church with. He's been bringing in trailer loads of water, and you know what he's been saying and telling these feds? He's been telling them, why don't you drink the water? Why don't you show up and have a nice big glass of water? Right? Remember when the Flint, Michigan water crisis hit and all of those politicians where people were saying, "Oh, it's safe, come drink the water," and yet none of them showed up to drink the water? Yeah, I'd love to see some EPA officials show up and just have a nice big tall glass of East Palestine, Ohio water. How about that? Do you think that they would do that? Yeah, I don't think that they would either. Again, you can text the program today at 573-319-1586. Now, the interesting thing is that this recent Ohio train derailment is not really out of the ordinary, right? It wasn't the first even to have occurred in Ohio this year. There was another train derailment that apparently occurred back on January 19th. And in that incident, the Ohio Central Railroad had, I think, 97 cars that was stretching for almost a mile and a half that slid off the rails. And then those train cars were empty at the time, thankfully. So there wasn't any cargo for it to spill out, and nobody was hurt in that crash. But the fact is that this is more common than we know. And I think only reason why we're paying attention to it now is because, of course, of the major environmental disaster that is occurring. But we've got a problem with our infrastructure here in the United States. And it's the kind of thing where a lot of people are sort of trying to find, they're using patternicity, which is a good word that if Camellia were here, would give me $5 for, to sort of connect the dots and say, oh, well, this was deliberate because the FDA or the EPA wants to take people's lands and stuff. Somebody sent me all the conspiracy theorists were sending me this weekend. They were like, oh, it's because the EPA wants to seize the people's lands. And so if they do this, then they can come in and they can take people's lands and stuff. There is a super fun site law that exists where the feds can't do things like that. But and I'm not saying that that's not what it is, but my belief is more likely that we have not been paying attention to our infrastructure here in the United States, and that these crashes occur more frequently than we even know. But because of the severity of this one, now everybody is like, well, wait a minute, why is this happening so frequently? It must be a plot. But here's the thing. Here's what I think is the real issue here is that, we've neglected our infrastructure for a very long time, and we've basically accepted the hazardous state of our infrastructure here in the United States. And I think a lot of cronyism and government intervention into the market have created perverse incentives for transportation firms through subsidy, right? The train industry is one of the it might be the most heavily subsidized industry in the United States. Maybe air travel could possibly beat it out, but our transportation industry, there's not going to be innovation when there is subsidy, right? When you have a guaranteed revenue source, you don't have to go out there and work harder in order to grow or build your business if you know for sure that you're going to get a certain amount of money next year and it's a guarantee, which is why I actually liked, who was the senator who got in big trouble for suggesting all federal laws should sunset after 5 years, and the Republicans were screaming at Joe Biden during the State of the Union because Biden suggested that would include Medicare and Medicaid, which of course it would. But if there were that kind of a rule on the federal books, imagine, the train companies would not perhaps get their subsidies guaranteed, or they'd have to have them re-upped every 5 years. I'd love to see something like that. I think that's it was Florida Senator Rick Scott, I believe. Thank you for my brain finally working on Monday morning. I've got some delicious coffee. My friend Camellia Petersen, let's give her a round of applause, gave me some delicious coffee from Joplin, Missouri, where she's from. It's really good stuff. So I just got to keep drinking it so I can wake up. But, consider that before this train derailment happened, there were many derailments that were happening and we weren't paying attention to them. We didn't even know about this until this one happened. And the reality has been staring us in the face the whole time. And this was bound to happen sooner or later because we have accepted the government's status quo in regards to the hyper-regulation and subsidy of our transportation industry. And, I know a lot of people aren't going to like this, but frankly, I think rail travel would probably be a thing of the past if it wasn't heavily subsidized. Honestly, we would probably have moved to trucks entirely at this point. Now, do we do a lot of massive amount of movement for trains? Sure. But Warren Buffett owns a lot of trains here in the United States. And he works very hard to ensure that Congress is subsidizing and protecting the rail industry here in the United States. Most likely, if we didn't do that, and if Warren Buffett and his cronies weren't profiting from government intervention, we might not even have trains in this country. And I know you're thinking to yourself, oh, I like trains. Trains are cool. Trains are romantic. You know, I'm going to Japan here in a few weeks, and I'm going to ride on an amazing train system that they have right there. Maybe trains can work. But guess what? Japan National Railways, private company, privatized, deregulated. Yeah, look it up. Check it out. We'll be back with Bernie Sanders versus Nikki Haley. Should old people have to face a mental competency test to become president of the United States? Oh, you think people should be mentally competent before we give them nuclear weapons? Oh, how dare you? How ageist. What a ridiculous suggestion. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericashow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Petersen stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apeforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apeforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit aporlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Good morning, it's 7:26. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. How are you feeling today on a Monday? Nice to see you all here today. All 32 of you over there on YouTube. If you're watching us live right now, I'd love it if you could give us a like. Well, even if you're not watching us live and you're watching us later, like the video to help us to spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty on the Wake Up America show. Nice to see all of our friends today. Thank you so much to John Rail for the super chat today. For my belated birthday message. Super grateful for that. Nice to see Leo Waseshka is joining us in there today. Looks like they work in the rail industry and they're offering a lot of really interesting commentary. We appreciate that, as well as offering their the information about how the train derailment in Ohio was caused. Who said it was caused by bad bearings that overheated. Nice to hear you. Hear your expert insight on that. Brian Lewis said in response to my statement in the chat about the TARP bailout program going to, in part to Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaways, which is, of course, invested in rail travel here in the United States, freight rail travel, said that TARP was paid back with interest. The money was never intended to be real. Obama bought GM, General Motors, with it. Leo Waseshka is talking about that rail travel, and he goes on to say that it wouldn't take much to derail it. The video of the rail car on fire prior to the accident could have been the feds sabotaging rather than the bad bearing. Well, never attribute to malice what could easily be explained away by incompetence. It's nice to see you all here today on the Wake Up America show. We're going to continue discussing that on the live stream. Of course, you can talk about whatever you want over there, but I'm going to talk about something else. Time to move on. Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont said on Sunday that Nikki Haley calling for competency tests for office was absurd and ageist. What do you think about that one?
You're a stupid son of a bitch.
You think so? Okay. Haley is 51 years old. She made the call when announcing her presidential bid in South Carolina last week. She made the call for competency tests for office. Honestly, I don't think it ought to be a thing with age. Maybe we ought to have a competency test just to run for office in general, no matter how old you are. What do you think about something like that?
How dare you?
Really? Like this is something that people are upset about as a concept? I feel like this is a reasonable response. I think this is a reasonable proposal. It shouldn't necessarily be based on age. It should be based on, can you read, write, arithmetic? How about this? If you're a felon or if you have like a misdemeanor within like the last decade, you shouldn't be allowed to run for office. Because I don't know if you've all seen this video, but my dad shared it with me and Camelia sent it to me as well, where this guy I think he was giving a sermon and he asked people, if he had to vote, who do you think, show of hands, he listed off all of these crimes that had been committed. And he said, was it the NBA or was it the NFL? Were these NFL players that had these criminal records or in the NBA? And when he listed off all these crimes like fraud, domestic assault, like theft, battery, all these really serious crimes, he said, who do you think it was, the NFL or the NBA? And he had people raise their hands. He says, it wasn't either one of them. It was our current sitting members of Congress. I mean, I guess it would be funny if it wasn't just so outright, outrageous that is the case. But, honestly, a lot of Americans do have criminal records, and they probably are like, you know what? He's just like me. He's the felon that I want to have a beer with and send to Washington, D.C. to steal from me because, well, he may be a crook, but he's our crook. Anyways, Nikki Haley is getting called out by Bernie Sanders for saying that there should be a competency test. But Bernie is lashing out and saying that it should be both focused on ideas over their age. He says, we are fighting racism. We're fighting sexism. We're fighting homophobia. I don't think we have to be fighting ageism. Oh, gosh. Now, is ageism a thing? Sure, absolutely. Is it something that you got to watch out for? Absolutely. Should there be laws against it? I don't know about that one. Let's see. Let me play the clip from Bernie Sanders. And in just a few minutes, we're going to go get Maria Buenano on the program. I see her messaging me right now. Take a listen to Bernie Sanders, and let me go get Maria, and I'll be right back.
Haley is running for president, as you know, and she said there should be a mandatory mental competency test for politicians older than 75. You're 81. Do you take offense at that?
What did she mean? I don't understand what you... No, I think that's absurd. There's a level...
Absurd.
Yeah, we are fighting racism, we're fighting sexism, we're fighting homophobia. I think we should also be fighting ageism. Trust people, look at people, and say, this person's competent, this person's not competent.
And look at Joe Biden.
There are a lot of 40-year-olds out there who ain't particularly competent. Older people. You look at the individual. I don't think you make a blanket statement.
Okay. So when it comes to the current president or the former president and their age range, it does.
I think that there should be a competency test, not based on age, but based on your criminal record and, just mental competency, no matter how old you are. All right, I'm going to go get Maria. We're going to talk to her about forcing kids to wear gay jerseys. When we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1, you can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself or me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great! Number 2, most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3, you're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it and you help me pups build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell, this commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. Happy Monday. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. All right, well, in this week in Weird, an article that was sent to me by our friend Maria Buenano says that parents were told that their 6-year-old kids must wear gay pride t-shirts or miss out on taking part in a halftime game. What is happening down under in Australia? Joining us now is the lovely Maria Buenano. Good morning, Maria. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning, Austin. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on, Maria. So give us an update and sort of the Reader's Digest version of this story. What's going on?
So basically, in Australia, students were told that they have to wear a pride shirt to participate in this halftime game, which you're seeing similar things here in America, but in Australia, things seem to be much more, I guess, flamboyant in that department. So kids are basically forced to identify and participate with this woke cult in order to participate in school activities, which is not only insane, but it's kind of holding students hostage to their politics, and it's forcing politics on children, and it's wrong.
No kidding. Now, the kids are 6 years old. They're being told they have to wear these pride jerseys. I mean, has there been any backlash to this? I mean, what has been the response in general?
Yeah, some parents have spoken out against it. A lot of the backlash seems to be over here in America, with people just being outraged and saying, well, I hope this doesn't come here. This is the same stuff they're doing here. But in general, it seems to be mostly the parents that are upset, but a lot of parents are also on board with this. They view it as inclusion and a good way to incorporate these ideas into children's lives and to try to, like, I guess, get them used to these ideas, which makes sense. But in my opinion, it's kind of grooming in a lot of ways. If you have to be forcing kids to participate in order for them to want to learn about sexuality and gender fluidity, it just seems abnormal to me.
Yeah, I completely agree. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm Austin Petersen. I'm speaking to our commentator and pundit, Maria Buenano, who sent us this story from Australia about kids who are forced to wear pride jerseys and told they can't participate if they don't wear them. Our friend Doug H. over on the live stream made a comment. He says, that's a little who doesn't want to wear the ribbon. Maria, you might not have seen this Seinfeld episode, but
I love that episode.
Okay, so
it's my favorite
know.
episode.
Yeah, where Kramer refuses to wear the AIDS ribbon in the walk, and they're forcing him to conform, and he doesn't want to wear the ribbon, and they chase him down and make him feel bad and berate him. It's kind of a prediction for the kind of thing that we're dealing with here today. We've seen this here. Was it in the United States or was it in Canada? There was some hockey player who was a Christian and he didn't want to wear a gay pride jersey, and he was berated to no end. I mean, this isn't just something across the ocean that's happening. It's happening here in our hemisphere as well.
Absolutely. And it reminds me of the Leah Thomas competition, because I know Riley Gaines, who was the champion Olympic swimmer that competed against Leah and tied, she said they were handing out Title IX jerseys at the competition, which is kind of telling if you're handing out these types of jerseys and making people wear them when the ideologies aren't really aligned with, let's say, women's rights or equality. I wonder how much of these other incidences, like in Australia and Canada, have similar things going on behind the scenes. I wonder if they actually are inclusive to trans and LGBT members, or if it's just about photo ops, because that's really what it seems to be to me.
Now, talk to us a little bit about the Leah Thomas situation. You say that you know the woman that she has competed against in competition. Now, I say she, but I guess we have to say that very loosely because she hasn't apparently had bottom surgery. And so she recently appeared in a women's locker room and exposed herself as a male to the women in this locker room, which was fairly disturbing for the people who were involved. Am I correct?
Yes, and there were some members of the team that were sexual assault victims and were made to be very uncomfortable by Leah Thomas exposing herself. And as a woman who has gotten in swimsuits before, I have to say there's no easy way to get into a swimsuit like that without being completely naked. So it puts women in a very uncomfortable position where they have to basically be buck naked in front of a biological man that still has male parts. I find that outrageous. And the students were kind of held hostage and their futures were waved over their heads by the university saying, oh, well, if you speak out or refuse to compete, then your future's basically done here. No one will respect you. No college will want to take you. So I find that extremely manipulative. Not only do biological women have to be put in vulnerable spaces where the locker room should be a safe space for women. For the whole movement that cares so much about safe spaces and inclusion, they're really going the complete opposite direction and making women very vulnerable and uncomfortable for the sake of a photo op.
Maria, do you think that there's any going back on something like this? I mean, I I think that the hope is, or that the optimistic view of this would be that, that the outrage will spark a backlash and that we will, will actually be able to successfully push these people, into their own separate facilities. But I'm a bit of a pessimist on the situation. In my view, I think this is the kind of thing that we sort of reached a turning point. I don't know if there's any going back. What's your opinion on this?
I guess my answer would be going back to what? To where everything's not gender neutral, where everything's separate. I would say it would only be possible if there was a huge divide in people and people within these spaces, like the competitors of that championship, would be willing to throw their futures away for the sake of the movement and on principle. And I'm not sure that's really worth it for a lot of students. And I've made this argument with people in debates about the Leah Thomas debacle because I don't think the 18-year-olds that are risking their future are in a position to really do that the right way, not to mention they're fresh out of high school and their entire future's ahead of them. But I think the best way would be for all of the alumni of all of these colleges to pull their funding, pull their support, and say, we are not going to sit by and let you do this to the next generation of students. And I really hope that if this is possible, that people who I guess have a different horse in the race use their assets to make noise instead of just being outraged, because I think no change can really happen by just being outraged. And a lot of individuals take the legislative route, which is important, but I also think that money talks. And if everyone who graduated from these universities said, I'm not sending my kids here, sent a long worded letter to the administration and pulled all of their funding, I think that would do much more to make change than just being outraged and having, I guess, young people put their futures on the line for something that I suppose isn't worth it. And even if they did put their futures on the line, I'm not sure that they wouldn't become a casualty of war in a sense, where the only reason like Riley Gaines got any traction on her outrage was because A, she tied Leah Thomas, and B, she had a very successful career as an Olympic swimmer. So she wasn't essentially putting her future on the line in the same way that a lot of those other students would have been. And I just hope that if that is possible, to go back to how it was, where I guess we respected our gender spaces, that those students wouldn't be left behind.
You make a lot of good points here, Maria, and I know you got to get to work here in about 15 minutes. So
I
I'll ask
do.
you, is there anything else that you'd like our listeners to know before we let you go?
The main thing that I see between all of these gender fluid movements, between whether it's Leah Thomas or that incident with the pride shirts in Australia, is that the woke mob is not only removing safety from women's spaces, they're downright eliminating equality of opportunity from these competitions and from these universities by forcing women to comply with something that I would say is outside of their biological ability. Even the fact that Riley Gaines tied with Leah Thomas, I think that she could have beaten her if she really, really had more opportunity, like wasn't forced to compete with her, wasn't forced to use a locker room with her, do all these things. You have to think of the psychological ramifications before a fight or before a competition or any sport related championship. If you have to be uncomfortable and you can't get in your zone before a competition, that completely throws off the entire competition.
Makes a really good
So,
point there, Maria. We've got to let you go because
yeah,
I don't want you to be late for work. You got to be there in like 15 minutes, less than 15 minutes. Maria Buenano, you
yeah.
can, where can we follow you online?
My ats are MWIL15 on YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, Facebook, all of them. I'm looking to create new video contents on Rumble and YouTube very soon.
Awesome. Maria, we appreciate you very much. Thank you for this report and thank you for standing up for economic freedom and personal liberty. We definitely salute you. Thank you and have a great week.
You too. Bye,
Thank,
Austin.
thank you very much. What did you think of Maria Buenano? She does really good reports. She's been tearing up the scene here and she's starting to get herself out there and make a name for herself. We love supporting young liberty lovers in this country. We love liberty. We love Maria. Hope you do too. All right, when we get back, Mark Zuckerberg, he should get in trouble. It gets a slap on the wrist for copying Elon Musk's homework. Meta is now launching its own subscription service to try and rival Twitter's blue checkmark service. Yes, now you can just buy the blue checkmark. What does it even mean anymore? We'll talk about that when we get back. And don't forget, John Miltimore coming up at 8 o'clock to talk about corporations scrapping their diversity, equity, and inclusion departments on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Good morning to the Cantina crew. This is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Petersen will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
The trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
Good morning, I'm Austin Petersen. I just got back from a nice walk at the local park. Welcome to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. No, I did not come back from the park. Congratulations to Chris Morrill, who has, and I think it's been a long time coming, now been elevated to moderator level 1 on the YouTube chat. Congratulations, Chris. Use your power wisely and sparingly. Be a benevolent dictator, if you will. If you're enjoying the Wake Up America show, we'd love to hear from you. You can text the program today at 573-319-1586. Send us a text, and you can have it read on air. If you'd like to support the program and have your text read on air, you can send us a super chat over on YouTube. And by the way, I know people who are Android users, not iPhone users, were always asking, hey, can I become a monthly subscriber using my Android phone? Well, I guess now you can. You can actually subscribe to the YouTube channel and do gift subscriptions by clicking on the little cash symbol in the bottom right hand corner of your YouTube chat. So if you said to yourself, I want to be a part of the Freedom Ninja Club and have the little Statue of Liberty and the gold bars and all that stuff next to my name, you can do that now. And you can gift memberships as well. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you what, how about a little gift? I'll give away one free membership right now. It's going to do it randomly. And I will do a one-tap buy. And somebody is going to become a monthly subscriber. They'll get a little gift next to their name. It's another birthday gift from me. Now, YouTube chooses it randomly. I don't get to decide who it is. Gifted one membership. Somebody will get a little Statue of Liberty next to their name. There it is. Buddy Mansur. Congratulations, buddy. You just became a sponsor. Now it's just for 1 month, and it was on me. And if you choose to re-up it next month, you can, buddy. But you get the little Statue of Liberty next to your name. Honorary Freedom Ninja. Glad to have you here. Chris is a moderator. Hope you all will enjoy living under his totalitarian rule. All right. Meta Platforms is launching a paid subscription service that enables users to verify their accounts with government identification and receive direct access to customer support. What do you think? What do you mean, boo? Honestly, I thought it was the nice thing actually is to be able to receive direct access to customer support. I've been wishing for that for a long time. Buddy Manser asked the question, gold. Oh, I guess, buddy, were you already like a Freedom Ninja? Were you, if you were, I guess maybe if you were a subscriber before and maybe you let it lapse, if you come back for another month, then you must get the gold bar. So Jared Pierce calls it Boomer Book. Very funny. Very true. No, the funny thing too about Facebook and their audience, like they're trying to compete with TikTok, and they're getting their lunch eaten by these other social media platforms that young people are using. And then what Meta has done has been to push the older people who actually use their platform to the side. It's funny because what they have done is they've suppressed the speech of the type of people who would actually keep Facebook growing, or at least continuing. Back when they started, the great demonetization. I don't know if you all remember, but Facebook used to have a trending bar just like Twitter does, and they got rid of it because what they found was, I think it was around for maybe 6 months. They found that all of the trending items that were on Facebook were things like Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire, Fox News. This may have been before even Donald Trump, for all I can remember. For those who can remember, if you can let me know, I'd be grateful to know in terms of time. But the question about Facebook's move to marginalize older people, I think has been a huge mistake. The response to this has been terrible for Facebook, right? They got rid of that trending thing, and then they started to deprioritize and to suppress the speech of boomers and people who are my age and older, geriatric millennials, Gen X, and the boomer generation on that platform in hopes that young people would start using Facebook more, and they don't. I mean, why do we even keep our Facebooks anymore? What does it really do for us? I'll tell you, advertising on Facebook and Instagram has not been a successful prospect. There was a time when it made sense to advertise on Facebook. I still try a little bit on Instagram because I actually get more click through to my shop on Instagram than on Facebook, but it doesn't make any sense because if I go to my Facebook page, for example, now that I would advertise on, it says your page is being suppressed and pushed down into people's at the bottom of people's feeds, and it will continue to be doing so until December. It doesn't say December, what day in September or December. It just says until December, and it said that before. It said that last year before December. And so I'm guessing they must have meant a year and a half. For a year and a half, you will not be able to reach the people who have subscribed to your Facebook page. And so it's like, okay, well, but I can advertise. Oh yeah, you can advertise for increased reach, but we're going to suppress your reach. So why would I pay you money to suppress my reach? So I can't get any organic reach. I can only get paid reach at all on Facebook. It makes absolutely no sense. So I don't invest any time or energy. That's why, and I know a lot of people like Chris Morrill and others really liked the Facebook live stream discussion a lot more than they liked it on YouTube. But honestly, YouTube is actually supporting me. If I look at the analytics, I've got 6 million views on YouTube in the last 28 days. There's no way that I'm going back to Facebook where they could just in an instant cut me off constantly. All right, I got to talk to John Miltimore, the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education, because this is something that matters to you. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? Oh, you're like, oh, that doesn't matter to me. Okay, it does, because corporations like Target and others are scrapping their DEI teams. Is ESG next? Environmental, social, and governance? We follow all this crap. We'll talk about it when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Donald Trump and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Petersen is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Step right up, ladies and gents, to learn about the coolest president yet. He's not just any old prez, he's Calvin Coolidge, and boy oh boy is he different from the rest. He was quiet as a mouse, but don't you underestimate his power. He knew how to handle money, and he didn't waste an hour. He cut taxes, lowered debt, and balanced the budget with ease. No wonder the roaring 20s brought such prosperity and peace. But don't take my word for it. Grab a copy of Calvin the Coolest President and see for yourself. It's a children's book that'll make you smile and help your little ones learn about wealth. You can find it on Amazon Kindle or get your hands on a paperback at apforlibertyshop.com. So come on down and get yourself a copy of the book that's making waves all around town. You won't regret it, so get ready to be floored because Calvin Coolidge, well, folks, he really scored.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
Any real-world experience.
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Thanks for sticking around. If you're over in the live stream, make sure that you click like on the video to help us get out into other people's feeds so they can enjoy the message of economic freedom and personal liberty as well. How are you feeling today on a Monday? Good. Well, I've got some good news for you. Goodbye. Anti-bias training. Target, Wells Fargo, and Amazon are among companies that are ditching woke diversity teams as they cut costs. Joining us now to discuss that and the fallout is our friend John Miltimore, a man who joins us every week, typically on the program, who's got some great insight on economics. John Miltimore is the managing editor of FEE. That's the Foundation for Economic Education, and he's joining us now. Good morning, John.
Hey, good morning, AP. Happy to be here with you.
Yeah, glad to have you on the program again today, John. So Target, Wells Fargo, Amazon, I guess go woke, go broke is literally the subheading of this story, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's a step in the right direction. I think what we're seeing is Right now we're kind of in this recession period. Like whether or not it's a recession, nobody really seems to know. We had a couple of quarters of negative growth, but that wasn't a recession. We might be heading toward one. And what you're seeing is companies that are getting rid of, they're laying off people in the departments where they can do it most to keep functioning and improve their profit. And it's no surprise that these DEI departments are seeing the highest attrition rates. Um, I personally think these companies should be going further. Like again, getting rid of departments. These are things HR can handle this from a legal perspective to make sure you're in compliance. Um, federally. I don't see a purpose for these DEI departments. I think they do a lot more harm than good. It's like somebody watched The Office in 2005 and saw just at the beginning how painful this was for people and said, let's do this. Let's roll with it. Make people sit in these horrible trainings about microaggressions and making sure your words don't offend the people around you. I think these departments are really, they're not just a waste. They're really toxic. I don't think they, bring us closer as human beings at all. I think they just highlight, both painful history and differences we have in the way we speak, and they kind of weaponize victimhood and cause a lot of problems for companies as well. So hopefully these companies like Amazon, Wells Fargo, Target, go further. I think, and I guess my bottom line, just a quick note before I get back to you here, AP, is if you are in college and pursuing a degree in diversity, take a look at the attrition rates, take a look at, hiring rates for these jobs. It might not be what getting a job there might be a lot harder than you think.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm Austin Petersen speaking to John Miltimore. He's the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education. Over on the live stream, John Knox dropped a comment that said a lot of diversity managers will be getting fired in the next few years as we go through an economic downturn. Sadly, the government employed ones will likely be safe. Probably a good point, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at universities in particular, or ones just that are in government offices, these departments are huge. I did a story one of like 5 6 years ago on Michigan, like Michigan University, over 100 diversity staff, and the salaries are through the roof. Like most of them are making six figures. Um, and yeah, I think that most of those positions are probably going to be safe. I don't think universities are going to feel much pain, and that's one of the things in the private sector. At least during downturns, the private sector reacts. It says, "Okay, we got a little carried away in hiring here. We need to make some changes. Where can we do that?" You don't see that in the public sector in the same way. I think it's a great opportunity to say, "Hey, if we, government spending's out of control, universities have way too much, way too much. Get serious about cutting there."
John, would you say that I'm being hyperbolic, or would I be exaggerating if I said that when they talk about diversity, what they really mean is everybody but people like you and I?
I don't think that's a huge exaggeration, and like and even if it's not, that's not the only reason I'm opposed to these things. But yeah, I think it is kind of a way for like a backdoor affirmative action program, and I think Americans in general, even California put affirmative action on the ballot last year. It got destroyed. I believe it was last year. I don't think it was the year before.
What was this?
And in California, proposition, which I'll have to go back and look at which one we covered it. It was either last year or the year before. Um, California voters said no, we don't want this, and it was the language was very plain on the issue. And even in California, when you give again, you put this to the people, who is here like democracy, giving people the choice. The people didn't want it, and the people don't want they don't like the society where you get more or less based on your race or your gender or your sexual preference. That's really antithetical to America and what it was about. And did it take us a long time to get to this, progress towards this society where yeah, you get, where race doesn't matter and these things don't matter. Yeah, we know the history. Women didn't have the right to vote, and we had the history of slavery and all these things. But we through all that, we progressed to a society that what really mattered was you. And now we seem to be pulling away from that, and all these other characteristics that don't matter, like your race or your sexual preference, those things don't matter in hiring. We shouldn't be looking at those things and weighing if you get into a university because of your race or your gender. We need the American ideal. What we really strive to be is one that, no, what matters is you, what you bring, your talents, and Those are the things we should be focusing on.
I mean, the market really does have a way of punishing things like this because, at the end of the day, the laws of supply and demand are more powerful even than most government edicts or, the best intentions of the central planners to try and create a more diverse workforce. The reality is that when the rubber hits the road, that a meritocracy is what everybody defaults to when the proverbial shit hits the fan. Am I wrong?
No, I think that's spot on, and it's one more reason why we should always be a fan of markets, right? Like they're a correcting course for us in all these ways. And like I get it. You had these tech companies and other corporations flush with cash during the good times, just higher, 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 and there's a lot of pressure for them to do this, right? There was a lot of pressure to, especially once the other companies started hiring the building out these DEI departments and things. And now we're in a downturn, and profits look, you look at the balance sheet of some of these, even companies like Amazon now are looking real bad. So they're going to try to correct things, and they're going to do it where they can. They're going to trim fat where they can do it the most easily. Do it most easily. And these programs are like, there's a Harvard professor, cited in that story that you sent me in the Daily Mail, and he said these are. It's no secret that these diversity departments are going to be the first, places they're going to look to trim fat during hard times.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm speaking to John Miltimore. He's the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education. We're talking about a story that showed that Target, Wells Fargo, and Amazon are among companies that are ditching woke diversity teams as they cut costs. John, in terms of diversity and the benefit that it has, I mean, I think that like the kind of the sad reality is that for people like us or Republicans, if you will, and Democrats do this as well, but we all sort of engage in tokenism to a certain degree because we sort of have to accept this sad reality that you and I probably don't agree with, which is this concept of, you might call it race essentialism or even gender essentialism, that people are sort of make determinations for their politics, their political views, or even in the marketplace, they're going to determine what they buy, what they purchase based on, is there a model who's represented who's going to buy this? Now, when you look at Victoria's Secret, or you look at Nike and they're advertising, 300-pound models wearing their clothing, at first blush, it seems ridiculous to think, okay, well, Victoria's Secret and Nike, health, more like these are supposed to be brands for people who are healthier, skinnier. But I mean, maybe there is a marketplace for Victoria's Secret to sell, double Z bras or something, right? So, I mean, in some ways, capitalism might work against our ideals by supporting things that you and I think, are probably anathema to our ideals, right? So a lot of it is forced, but, there are a lot of big girls out there who buy bras.
Yeah, no, I think all women buy bras, right? If I was advising Victoria's Secret, I wouldn't have been the person to say, "Hey, let's do this." I think it's as a brand, and again, I'm not a marketing guy, not a brand guy. Take this for what it's worth. I think it was a horrible decision by Victoria's Secret to get, go away from attractive models and to
Me
embrace
too,
this
damn it.
idea. I
Absolutely.
and well, there's that reason as well. But no, I just think it's really all these people in boardrooms making these decisions they're afraid to say no. That's what it comes down to. You have a bunch of people get in a room together, and nobody wants to be like, I think this is a terrible idea. You know why? Because they're gonna point the finger at you, and you're part of the patriarchy, you're part of the system, and at the end of the day, everybody wants to kind of self-preserve, right? And it's a lot easier to keep your mouth shut and make a mistake and then walk it back than it is to stick your neck out in the line and oppose that stuff. And you see these discussions, and yeah, I've even been a part of them at different points in my career. And you realize, like, even people that don't like it, they don't want to speak up because there's risk there. And and people don't feel confident in their principles too. Like, it's not just a lack of courage. I think sometimes people don't know why they believe what they do. Um, and I think being sure of your principles, having confidence in your principles and being able to explain them, and at the end of the day, even being, if you're wrong, being able to disagree with people, right? Like, say, hey, I think you're wrong, and maybe you don't win, but make your case. The problem is I think even people are afraid to do that because
Yeah,
like some of this
there's a
stuff.
lot of fear out there, and I mean it's for good reason. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm Austin Petersen, speaking to John Miltimore. Quest Fanning over in the live stream dropped a super chat. Thank you for that, Quest. We appreciate that. It's things like that that are helping this show get in the green. Yeah, John, I don't know if you heard, but this morning I was talking a little bit earlier about the Wake Up America show started in September, and we were running in the red until this month. We're now in the green. We have got two big advertisers on the show that are supporting us, as well as our army of loyal Wake Up America show Cantina crew friends. Quest Fanning says that the cover story a few months ago on The Economist pointed out superfluous attempts at inclusion need to be dropped if you want to focus on the environmental. Um, Not quite sure how to respond to something like that. Maybe you have some insight on that, John. But I wanted to tag an aside on this one because I'm really honestly curious. I don't think you and I have talked about the question of inclusiveness for biological males competing in women's sports. Do we say on one hand that we shouldn't oppose it because anything peaceful doesn't violate the non-aggression principle, John? It may violate our conscience, but it doesn't violate the nap.
No, yeah, and that's the thing. I'm not as far as passing laws to do this. I'd have to think about that more deeply. I don't think biological men should be competing in women's sports for the basic fairness, right? Like I have a daughter, and she's a good little athlete. She's a good gymnast, and I would be pissed off if she's now forced to compete against biological males and they're winning medals from her. That's not right. I mean, it's just not. We've had women's sports for decades and decades now. We do it for a reason. Like in some sports, like as especially as kids get older, they can't compete with men and boys in some of these other sports, and so we have their own divisions, and they're able to excel doing it themselves. Serena Williams, couldn't compete in male tennis, right? She wouldn't be who she is today. And if we just suddenly let a lot of biological men go in that division because they choose to identify that way, that's is that fair to Serena Williams and all these other
It's
players?
not fair,
It's not.
but John, it doesn't violate the non-aggression principle, which is the many libertarians claim is the central tenet of libertarianism. Some people disagree and say fundamentally it should be property rights, but let's not quibble about the nap. It doesn't violate the nap, John. You don't think that there should be laws against it, which means you think ultimately it should be legal, which means it's probably going to happen, John.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's probably going to happen. What I think is going to look, we don't need a federal law, right? We don't need a federal law that says, hey, you can't have biological men competing. For years, we didn't have that. So we're going to go through this painful process right now. We're in kind of this schizophrenic state as a society where we don't know what we believe, and we don't need law to get us to kind of what we need is reason. Reason's going to show us no, we don't want this. And as more and more biological men start claiming medals in women's division, there's going to be more outcry over it. And I think if we just let this process play itself out, you don't need laws in the state involved in this. And in fact, I think doing that would probably come with unintended consequences. Let this play out. Let this, is it a farce? I think it is. Like I don't know how we reach as a society where um, somebody chooses to be a different gender, and then the all of society has to suddenly comply with that and embrace your idea for yourself. I'm not here to tell people you identify however you want, right? You live your life how you choose. That I think that's a way society should be, but you can't make society conform to your own perceptions and things. And I think, yeah, as far as the sports thing, I think it'll sort itself out without the heavy hand of the law.
Okay, well, we appreciate your input on that one. John Miltimore, managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education. Anything else that you want to share before we go?
No, nope. Happy to be back to work this week after a little time off, and check out our stuff at fee.org.
Check out fee.org. That's John Miltimore, managing editor of fee.org. Thanks, John. Have a great day.
Hey, you too, AP. Good talk.
We appreciate you very much. All right, normally I would go to commercial break, but I think that I'm going to stick around for a couple minutes because I thought that this story is the kind of story that I can get in before we hit the big topic today at 8:35 today. The question of, are men important? Apparently not. A video that came out over the weekend from a woman in the UK where she interviewed people asking them what straight white males were good for. And he said, Well, the responses were probably what you would expect. You can text the show today at 573 319 1586. That's 573 319 1586. Love to see our friends over there in the live stream today. Brian Lewis, Elizabeth Press, Allie O'Neill, Jared Pierce, and Mary Kramer, as well as Tolly Owens. Nice to see you all here today. And we see our friends over there on Twitch are joining us as well, saying that your show sucks and nobody is watching it. And then men are important, just not this show kind of stuff. If you are watching us over on Twitch, there's usually one or two people over there. But if you do want to join with the crowd, they're all over on YouTube at youtube.com/AP for Liberty. If you are infuriated by, let's see his name there, Protoozer. I can't really see the name. It's a little too small over there. If you're infuriated by what you hear and you're like, hey, wait a minute, I'm here, I'm watching the show, give us a like over there on YouTube to help us to grow the channel. We have been around since September. And you know what the nice thing is even if we don't have thousands and thousands of viewers, we've got sponsors. And that's what really matters. We also have the support of our nice small crowd. And our friends over at Lear Capital want me to remind you that gold and silver is always a great hedge against inflation. We've been talking this morning about how terrible the economy is. Well, I'll tell you, if they're cutting all of these staff, all of the staff at Meta, and they're cutting staff at Twitter, and they're cutting all of these jobs at Silicon Valley, many of these major corporations are cutting their diversity, equity, and inclusion teams. The writing might be on the wall. Now is a great time to reach out to our friends over at Lear Capital at learcapital.com. That's right, Lear Capital. They've got your back. They'll cover you in a financial crisis. Check out their offerings on gold and silver by visiting learaustin.com, not learcapital.com, learaustin.com. If you go to learcapital.com, you'll probably get their website, but then I don't get the credit. You want to help continue to see the Wake Up America show grow? Visit learaustin.com. That's learaustin.com if you want to see your portfolio grow this year. Lear Capital is generously sponsoring the Wake Up America show so we can continue to grow, and things are going very well. The Wake Up America show is brought to you not only by viewers like you, but also our friends over at Lear Capital. Now, you can call the line as well at 1-800-885-2175. That's 1-800-885-2175. Now, remember, I guess it's Proto Zero. He says, literally shilling to his two viewers, what money-grubbing trash. Your show sucks. No one is watching. Are you no one? The people over on YouTube? We've got a lot of trolls this morning, but you know what the nice thing about trolls is every comment that they make helps the show to grow. You see, my haters help pay my bills. And if you want to help pay our bills here, make sure that you check out our sponsor over at Lear Capital at learaustin.com, or even better, give them a call at 1-800-885-2175. That's 1-800-885-2175. All right, let's move on here. The next topic. All right, Confederate gold. Speaking of, perfect segue here on this story here. The feds, the FBI, moved in on a metal detectorist's gold find. Listen to this. Metal detectorist is suing the FBI, claiming that he alerted them to 7 tons of Civil War era gold, and they took it away in a secret overnight dig. Listen to this. The court-ordered release of a trove of government photos, videos, and maps and other documents involving the FBI's secretive search for Civil War-era gold has a treasure hunter more convinced than ever of a cover-up. Ooh, this is interesting stuff. And this is a guy by the name of Dennis Parada. He's waging a legal battle to force the FBI to turn over records of their excavation in Pennsylvania, where local lore says an 1863 shipment of Union gold, not Confederate gold. I just like Confederate gold because I think that's way cooler. What was that movie where the guys at the very beginning they're like time traveling and they like do a hit on a run of Confederate gold back in the day? What was that film? I can't remember. Some time travel movie. So this Union gold disappeared on its way to a U.S. mint in Philadelphia back in 1863. The FBI went to Dent's Run, and after sophisticated testing, they suggested that tons of gold might be buried there, but they've insisted for a long time that their dig came up empty. Now, Pareda, who is a metal detectorist, he spent hours poring over the newly released government records. He believes otherwise. He's accusing the FBI of distorting key evidence and improperly withholding records in an effort to conceal the recovery of a historic and extremely valuable gold cache. The FBI defends its handling of these materials. Now, Pareda's dispute is playing out in federal court, and a judge is overseeing the case. He has to decide whether the FBI will have to release their operational plan for the gold dig and other records that they want to keep secret. The judge might also order the FBI to keep looking for additional materials to turn over to this treasure hunter. He says that he felt double crossed and lied to. In his office, he's got huge drill bits and high-end metal detectors. I mean, this is his job. He's a professional at this. He's also uncovered himself tons of Civil War era cannon parts and lots of other odds and ends. He's saying that the truth is going to come out because he was hoping to keep a finder's fee from the potential recovery of hundreds of millions of dollars worth of gold. Buddy, what are you thinking, dude? Oh, the movie, was it Time Cop? Yes! Awesome, Time Cop with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Thank you. Elizabeth Press says it's probably Steven Crowder trolling you, AP, or Gary Johnson. It doesn't matter. Again, trolls are a great sign of success. Whenever you get trolls coming in hating on you, it just means that you're doing something right. But we don't really have a big audience over on Twitch because we don't really advertise Twitch. We advertise on YouTube. So trolls, feel free to join us over on YouTube, and we'd love to see you over there. You can also text the show. You can troll us over there at 573-319-1586. I see Andy for Liberty over there says, best show, just resubbed. Andy, we appreciate you very much. Thank you. It's the Wake Up America show. Oh, all right. So there's little evidence in the historical record to suggest that an Army detachment lost a gold shipment in this Pennsylvania wilderness, but the legend has inspired years of treasure hunters going out there and trying to find this gold, and Pareda is one of the guys among them. Now, he and his son have spent years looking for gold in Dense Run, and they essentially guided the FBI to this remote woodland, which was your first mistake. The FBI brought in a geophysical consulting firm, and their sensitive equipment detected a 7 to 9 ton mass that was suggestive of gold. Now, Pareda is saying that when the FBI came back in the dead of night, dug it up, and spirited it away in the middle of the night, he was hoping to get a finder's fee for that. You idiots. Joe Biden, what do you think of this guy? What a stupid son of a bitch. Exactly. Thank you. Why would you do this? What an idiot. If you find gold, you're not supposed to call the FBI. I think you're supposed to actually call the FBI, though. It's the law. Yeah, you're supposed to call the FBI. You're supposed to let them know. But I don't know if it would be necessarily a good idea. Would you call the FBI? I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that one on this Monday. All right, so the big story. Are men important? Apparently not. EV Magazine published this article in response to a video. I guess we should watch the video first. Take a look at this. Young lady went out on the streets in the UK and asked people this question.
What are straight white men good for?
Straight white men?
Yeah.
Not a lot.
What are straight white men good for?
Oh, that's a hard one. I don't know.
Do you think straight white men are important?
No.
We're utter fucking trash.
What are straight white men good for?
Being rude and making you feel uncomfortable.
Do you think they're important?
No.
So what would you say they're good for? What do you think they're good for in society?
If they give them their bank card, that's pretty good.
Do you think that the system is against anyone who isn't a straight white male?
I mean, I would say it's like a system based on like, heteronormative hegemony and like binary system.
What are straight white men good for?
Yikes. What are straight white men good for? Is that really that hard of a question? I venture a guess it shouldn't be that hard. Now, this woman who did this interview by the name of Jess Gill, she's the host of Reasoned UK. She went out on the street and she asked people, passersby, variations of two questions. The first question was, what are women good for? And then she asked questions like, are men important, or, what are straight white males good for? Now, everybody was supportive of the former question, right? When they were asked, what are women good for? They said things like, they're perfect, they're goddesses, they're good at everything, right? Those were the responses they got from pedestrians. What are women good for? But the opposite question really stumped people, right? And I think that this street interview really showcased a larger societal trend, right? Only the men who were brave enough to give a real answer said things like, men are good for a lot of things, right? But then they would immediately temper their answers typically with, but nothing that women can't already do. Apparently, there's nothing that men can do that women can't do as well. Is that really the case? Kind of makes me feel like feminism has lost the plot, right? Feminism wasn't always synonymous with man hating. It used to be that early feminism tried to foster an appreciation for women as they were, right? That meant that rather than simply advocating for women to be able to enter the workforce in the same role as men, a lot of early feminist advocates wanted women's work as mothers and homemakers to be better appreciated for its economic value, of which it is tremendous. But that has changed a lot with postmodern progressivism, third and fourth wave feminism, right? The new feminism insists that the only way to empower women was to make them more similar to men. And that's how we've gotten the feminism that exists today, right? Which insists on things like on demand abortion and universal hormonal birth control, right? And in order to facilitate the participation in hookup culture, right? But, rather than liberating women, it's really in many ways forced women to compete with men, not just on the job, but also to compete with men on romantic terms, right? Which has left women with a greater tax burden, right? And it's left them with a greater burden of reproductive support. So, more single mothers means more single mothers having to take care of themselves and provide entirely for themselves and their family, which I would argue is not good for anybody, male or female. But single motherhood is on the rise in this country. And a lot of this has to do with sort of demanding that women achieve, what's the word? Parity with males, again, on romantic terms and in the job market. But treating women as men, I think, is bad for men and it's bad for women. It's bad for working women. And I think that there are women who are hurt by hookup culture. I think that there are a lot of women who get themselves into a position in their life where they look back with regret because they didn't find and build a family. I think, for example, that Chelsea Handler video is a perfect example. Everybody was talking about this last week where Chelsea Handler was coming out and describing how often she participates in self-love, and she wakes up in the morning and she does drugs, and then she does self-love, and then she sleeps in till noon. And listen, far be it from me to question anybody in their personal lives and what they decide to do with their lives. But when somebody offers something like that to you, right? I think it would be odd if somebody were to offer to you, by the way, this is what I do. My schedule is, involves self-love. Okay, fine, live and let live as you see fit. But I think it's a little odd that you'd offer that. And what it does is it makes me think that you're actually trying to convince me of something, right? Or what you're really trying to do, honestly, is convince yourself of something, that you made a mistake in your life and that you want us all to know that you really do enjoy your life. Yeah, I really like my life. It's so great not having kids and things. Again, maybe it's true. Maybe Chelsea Handler didn't want to have kids. Maybe she loves getting up in the morning and starting her day with an edible and then practicing self-love and going back to sleep and then going to Paris for a baguette in the afternoon. You know what? There are probably a lot of women who really do enjoy that. And again, I'm not here to denigrate that, but I think that there are a lot of people who are trying to convince themselves that they're trying to convince themselves by pretending to try and convince us that they're actually happy, which isn't good for them. It's not good for your mental health. The problem is nobody wants to be honest about their regret. But the people who do come out and say that they regret the decisions that they made in their youth, well, they go viral for lots of good reasons. I mean, and I think the reality is that certain double standards exist for a reason. And Stephanie, my wife, and I were having this discussion the other day about relationships and hookup culture. Um, why is it that men can get away with it and women really can't? Well, it's just because of, the question of biology, right? the fact is that there are certain, when we talk about transgender women in sports, we say to ourselves, well, we accept it, that the reason why it's ridiculous, as John and I were just saying earlier, the reason why we accept this is ridiculous is because of the biological realities. And those things also matter when it comes to jobs and dating. If I could focus on the jobs thing for just a second, right? Well, what are men good for? Men have built nearly every structure that you have ever walked into in your entire life. It wasn't female construction workers who built what you're working in right now. Were there some female construction workers here or there? Sure, absolutely. Just like in nurses. Are there a few male nurses here and there? Sure, but let's not focus on the exceptions to the rules. Let's talk about the rule. The rule is that workplace fatalities largely consist of males. It's like 70 to 80% of men. What are men good for? Working in high risk jobs that involve creating superstructures that you can exist in, live in, be safe in, shielded from the elements in, and dying in those jobs at a much higher rate. That's what men are good for. And, that's a biological reality. You're never going to see 50-50 parity of male to female construction workers. That's not going to happen. Well, you're likely not going to see 50-50 male nurses. I'm not saying that it could never happen if, perhaps the economy turns around and diversity, equity, and inclusion rears its ugly head again. Perhaps one day, if Bernie Sanders at 95 years old becomes president of the United States and mandates 50-50 on everything, you'll see, half of the people going to war will be women. Maybe that will happen. I highly doubt it. I think the reality is that people in the workplace and the professions tend to choose the positions that they are in based on some biological reality, right? Oil well drillers, and things like that. But in terms of the biological realities of the hookup culture, right? This is obviously a lot more sensitive topic. I don't want to get into Don Lemon territory and talk about, well, she's past her prime. But if we're talking about reproductive years, there is, if you're being specific, there may be a different prime when you're talking about a woman running for office, but there are only so many years that a woman is able to biologically reproduce. Some women have reproduced as high as 70 years old with in vitro fertilization. That definitely can happen, but we're talking about naturally, and we're not talking about the exceptions to the rules. We should talk about the rules. And so, in terms of hookup culture, I think it hurts women more than it hurts men. Um, and that's because of biological realities I don't really want to get into in terms of the difference between our biologies. I think it's pretty obvious why it hurts women more than it hurts men. And I don't need to explain that to you, but I do think that in terms of what men are good for, there are a lot of things that men are good for that women can't do. And there are a lot of things that women are good for that men can't do. And acknowledging these biological realities is not bigotry, but it is bigotry to suggest that there is nothing that straight white males can do that provide value to society. And I think that this attitude is why more men are dying from despair, committing, making themselves unalive, right? If we're saying in a social media friendly way, right? They're, committing overdoses, for example. Quest Fanning asks with a super chat, by the way, thank you. He says, how do we better value careers like elder care? That's a really good question. Question, I don't know that I have a good answer for it off the cuff. But, if there are men missing from certain areas of our society, it's going to be hard for men to flourish in those areas, right? Men make up barely 1 in 4 teachers, and that number is actually falling over time. And also, the problem is, of course, is that a large part of Western males' personality is policing the sexuality of other males. A large part of Western males' identity is ensuring that men are conforming to their gender roles. And you could understand it because women being liberated from their gender roles means that women are in the workplace. Men being liberated from their gender roles means gender bending, and progressive women aren't happy with it. They can claim that they are, but they divorce those kinds of men. And that conservative women are not happy with men being liberated from their gender roles because they don't like seeing a man in a dress either. There are other ways to liberate men from their gender roles that don't necessarily involve, cross-dressing or things like that. But the sad reality is that, and I've been beating this dead horse over the last couple of weeks, that, if you've completely liberated one sex from their gender roles, and you have the other ones and we're desperately doing everything we can to keep men in their gender roles, one has to ask the question, is the answer that we need to put women back in a box, or is it that we need to liberate men from their gender roles? Because honestly, I don't know that that necessarily makes people happy. But then on the other side of things, just go out there and try and say that you need to. Like I said with our buddy, I asked Vince Dow last week. I was like, how are conservatives planning? What's the plan to remarginalize the homosexuals? Right? I know that that's kind of a funny way of putting things, but just exactly how do social conservatives plan on doing that? What is the plan to remarginalize the homosexuals? How do you plan on doing that? Right? And here's the thing: for the conservative traditionalists out there, of which I'm really not. I'm much more socially tolerant. For the conservative traditionalists out there, the rad trads, what's the plan to remarginalize women? Right? I don't think you get there. I think we're going to enter uncharted territory, because I think that the reality is that society will not accept a remarginalization of women, putting them back in their place, in the kitchen, if you will. Some women will accept that willingly, sure. But are you going to, I tell you, you could have the most conservative father, and he's got 3 daughters, and you know what? He still wants to send them all off to, if the girls want to go to college and join a progressive cult and vote against their father is gladly going to do that. The father is the most conservative. You take the most conservative father in the United States, and unless they're a member of the Church of Latter-day Saints and they're living in a van down by the river out in some river in Utah, they're going to want their daughters to go to college. They're going to want their daughters to be able to go into the workplace if that's where they want to go, because nobody's going to tell the daughter of theirs that they can't go out and chase their dreams and do what they want to do. Alternatively, and my wife Stephanie brought this up and reminds me of this, alternatively, a lot of women feel the need to go into the workplace because they worry that they won't be able to find a provider male who will be able to fulfill a gender role and work together with them. So they say to themselves, hey, I need to get myself a career because I need to be able to take care of myself. For example, if my husband decides to divorce me one day, or if I decide to divorce him because he's a dirty cheater or what have you. I mean, these are all complicated problems to which there are no simple solutions, right? There are no simple answers to the question of how do we achieve a symbiotic relationship in gender roles again that we once had when there weren't questions about biology. I say that, knowing that we don't really have questions of biology, but how do we achieve a symbiosis of the sexes that is benefiting to both of us so that men aren't unaliving themselves at a massive rate, right? Because the progressive answer to saying, well, we don't have equality in the draft, the progressive answer is, well, we should draft women in order to achieve equality. And I don't really think that that's the road I want to go down. What do you think? Do you really want to go down that road? Is the answer to men being drafted that if we want to have equality, to draft women? There are a lot of progressives who believe that women should be placed into the selective service just like men are when they achieve 18 years old. I really don't think that is the I really don't think that is the answer. Right? The true answer should be that no one should be a slave of the state, because conscription is slavery. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Looks like you guys are having some interesting conversation over there on the live stream. I want to go read it. It looks like it's juicy. Let me go to a commercial break, and when we get back and we end the show, what am I going to talk about for the last 15 minutes? Oh, Don Lemon. Oh, yeah, they're not liking his apology. Speaking of battle of the sexes, women being past their prime, I want to read that, and then when we get back, I've got that. Yeah, I've got that. We'll finish with that conversation when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
The Cantina Crew. This is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Petersen will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
This whole talk about age makes me uncomfortable. I think it's the wrong road to go down. She says people, politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you talking? Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s. I don't necessarily.
40s. Oh, I got another.
I'm not saying
decade.
I agree with that. So I think she has to be careful about saying that, well, you know, politicians aren't in their
I think
prime.
we
and
need
they
to qualify. Are you talking about prime for like childbearing, or are you talking about prime for
just
being
say
president?
what the facts are. Google it. Everybody at home. When is a woman in her prime? It says 20s, 30s, and 40s. And I'm just saying Nikki Haley should be careful about saying that politicians are not in their prime. And
Okay, what's hilarious is that, like, so I did Google this over the weekend. And also I asked ChatGPT, and ChatGPT gave me a very PC answer. She said, and I call her she because her name is Sydney. ChatGPT said that it's very subjective as to when a woman is in her prime. Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm loving seeing the responses to this. Megan Kelly had a take on this as well. Take a listen.
If you don't shoot the messenger, if you Google it, Google tells you a woman is past her prime when she's after 20, 30, maybe 40, he says. If you Google CNN, it comes up as the most trusted news source. So we can't always rely on Google, Don. The absurdity of suggesting that a woman is past her prime when she is 51 years old, like Nikki Haley. I just pulled just for fun, just for kicks, because you guys are both historians, some of the best known women on earth in modern history. Margaret Thatcher, she was 54 when she became prime minister of Great Britain. Nancy Pelosi became Speaker of the House for the first time when she was 67, past her prime. Sorry, Nance. Kamala Harris was 50.
Okay, but she was
55 when she became the vice president of the United States. Susan Wojcicki, CEO of YouTube, she's 54. I could keep going. And
okay, but she just retired.
By the way, what an insult to people like Dana Bash, who's 51, and his colleague at CNN. Sorry, past your due date.
I'm past my prime. Da, 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 da. I love it. I love it. Wait, even ChatGPT is roasting Don Lemon for his comments.
We asked Chatbot.
Yeah,
Like, well, what do you say?
When's a woman in her prime?
We asked Chatbot, and this is the answer. This is why people aren't going to like Chatbot. As an AI language model, it's not appropriate to make any assumptions or generalize about individuals based on their gender. It is important to recognize that every person is unique. And the concept of a prime can vary greatly based on personal factors such as physical health, lifestyle goals, and aspirations.
You see, so ChatGPT is on your side, ladies. What did Nikki Haley have to say?
This is something that I have faced all of my life. If it was Don Lemon yesterday, it was Whoopi Goldberg the day before, there will be somebody else tomorrow. I have always made the liberals' heads explode. They can't stand the fact that a minority conservative female would not be on the Democratic side because they know I pull independents. They know I pull suburban women. They know I pull minorities over to what we are trying to do. And look, he made that comment. I wasn't sitting there saying sexist middle-aged CNN anchors need to have mental competency tests, although he may have just proven that point. What I was saying is we need to be transparent. Those elected officials that are making key decisions for us Americans on national security and keeping our kids safe and the debt, yes, we need to know exactly that we're sending people that are mentally competent to do that.
So the lesson here is this. Nikki Haley is saying that Joe Biden should have to have a competency test for his age. So here's the lesson, the conservative lesson from this. I know you guys aren't going to like this, but it's reality. The conservative lesson, at least the Nikki Haley lesson on this, is that sexism is wrong. It's ageism that we really need. Am I wrong?
Good morning to the Cantina Group. This is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter.
Austin, why did you hit the Elon Musk button? Don't hit the Elon Musk button yet, Austin. Hit the live chat, Austin alone with chat scene button. There, thank God. I did not mean to push the Elon Musk button. I'm sorry. Okay, so is that the question there? Isn't that really what we're getting at? That. What are we doing here? Austin, for God's sakes, quit hitting all the buttons. Okay, there we go. The outro button. Yes. So I guess that is the position that we're supposed to take on this one, that it's not sexism. No, sexism is bad. Sexism, racism, right? We can't have tests for office based on sex, right? Being past or prime. Because Nikki Haley suggested that Joe Biden was past his prime. So racism bad, sexism bad, ageism good. You get what I'm saying with this? I mean, am I crazy here? We're outraged that Don Lemon would say something so sexist Oh, and by the way, if you're 80 years old, they should have to have a mental competency test. Really? Ageism is a thing. It is. As I get a little bit older, I start to get a little more sensitive about that stuff. And the problem is, with the ageism and the sexism and the racism thing is that, when you work for yourself like me, there's nobody to sue. I'm going to sue myself. Well, I do have one employee now, so I guess I got to be careful about what I say because, now I can be the victim of a lawsuit. There we go. What do you think about the Wake Up America show? Do you enjoy it? You see that we're getting more trolls. That's a sign of success. It always is. As you grow, you get bigger, more people watching, more people want to come in and they want to troll. It's always amazing to me when people come in and say, no one's watching your show. Well, you're watching it, dude, and you're commenting, and you're helping to blow up the chat, which we certainly appreciate. But now that Chris Morrill, Darth Morrill, has taken over as the moderator, maybe we'll see a little bit less of that. We'll see. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. Don't forget to visit our sponsors at LearAustin.com. We got a new sponsor coming in on February 27th. I hope that you will treat them with the same amount of kindness that you have treated Lear Capital because they are helping to grow the show. I'm going to be gone. Here's the deal. So bad news. Reruns tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. Yeah, the Wake Up America show is going to go into reruns for a few days because guess what? I'm going to be doing a debate. Yeah. I'm going to Maryland. Towson University in Maryland is hosting a debate between me and a groper lady. Groper. Not groper. Groiper. Like the kind of like extreme hard right. You know what a groiper is, don't you? Do you not know what a groiper is? Yeah, go. You know what? It's on Google. Google it, as Don Lemon might say. Between myself and a groiper later, the future of the right. I'm going to go prepare for that debate today, and I leave tomorrow morning nice and early to get to Maryland, where I will debate on Wednesday. I will try and stream the debate for you so you can see it and watch it in real time. Check my social media so that you can see the information about when it's going to happen. But if I can't stream it, then I will at least record it, so I'll upload it to YouTube so you can watch it later. She's probably groping too, says JG. All right, so I will see you tomorrow, but I will not be live tomorrow. It will be a rerun of me. Hopefully you will watch it anyway because you want to support the Wake Up America show and because the show is so awesome anyway. All right, so we will see you tomorrow, not live, but Friday live on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today. Fire. Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Petersen stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apeforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apeforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit aporlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.